In the chaos of a Viking shield wall, amidst the clang of steel and the screams of the dying, there was another sound, a sound that struck terror into the hearts of even the most hardened warriors. It was a guttural howl, the roar of a wild beast trapped in the body of a man. It was the sound of the Berserker. They were the champions of the Norse world, warriors who bit their shields in a feverish rage, who were said to be immune to fire and iron, and who fought with the strength of 10 men. But who were these terrifying figures? Were they merely elite soldiers in a battle frenzy? Or were they something more, something darker? Today, we investigate the legend of the Berserkers, the men who wore the skins of bears and wolves, and we will uncover the chilling theory that they were not just warriors, but members of a shamanistic death cult, channeling the divine madness of their patron god, Odin himself. To understand the Berserker, we must first look at the evidence in the sagas. Their name itself is a clue. Berserker likely means bershirt, referring to the practice of wearing the pelt of a bear into battle, not just as armor, but as a ritualistic act of becoming the beast. Their wolf-like counterparts were known as the Gnar, the wolfskins. The ancient texts describe their battle fury, the Berserkergang, in terrifying detail. Before a fight, they would enter a trance, growling and howling like wild animals, foaming at the mouth and biting the iron rims of their shields. Once the fury took hold, they became unstoppable forces of nature. They felt no pain. They were immune to fire and steel. They possessed a strength so immense they could cleave a man in two with a single blow. But this power came at a terrible price. In their rage, they could not distinguish friend from foe, often cutting down their own allies in a blind, chaotic slaughter. So what was the source of this terrifying power? The evidence points directly to their patron god, Odin. Odin was not just a god of wisdom. He was the god of Or, an Old Norse word that means fury, ecstasy, and poetic inspiration. He was the god of divine madness. The sagas state that Odin's own warriors went without mail coats and were mad as hounds or wolves. They were strong as bears or bulls. They slew men, and neither fire nor iron had effect upon them. This is a perfect description of the Berserkers. This suggests that the Berserkergang was not just a psychological state. It was a religious experience. Through intense, shamanistic rituals, perhaps involving fasting, exposure to extreme temperatures, and ritualistic dances, these warriors would cast aside their human identity and invite the spirit of a predator animal and the divine fury of Odin himself to possess them. Their rage was a form of sacred ecstasy, turning them into living avatars of their war god. But what if the source was more chemical. This is where our investigation enters the realm of historical and scientific theory. Some scholars have proposed that the Berserkers' rage was not divine, but drug-induced. The prime suspect is the hallucinogenic mushroom Amanita muscaria, also known as the fly agaric. This iconic red and white mushroom could induce a state of delirium, increased strength, and a lack of fear. Another theory points to the plant bog myrtle, which was a common ingredient in Nordic alcoholic drinks and, in high doses, can increase aggression. However, other theories reject the drug hypothesis entirely, pointing to purely psychological explanations. They argue the Berserkergang was a form of self-induced hysteria, a battle trance achieved through intense psychological conditioning, similar to states seen in other warrior cultures around the world. It was a mental switch, a willed descent into a beast-like state, a temporary insanity that made them the perfect shock troops for the chaos of a Viking battle. The Berserkers' power was a double-edged sword. While they were a terrifying asset in battle, they were a menace to their own society. The key flaw of the Berserkergang was its uncontrollability. In their blind rage, they could not distinguish friend from foe, often harming their own allies in the chaos. The sagas tell that after the fury subsided, they would be left in a state of profound weakness and exhaustion for days, completely vulnerable. In peacetime, they were often depicted as social outcasts, thugs, and bullies who used their fearsome reputation to intimidate communities and take what they wanted. Their wild, untamable nature did not fit into an increasingly organized and lawful society. As the Viking Age progressed and kings sought to consolidate their power and enforce a stricter rule of law, the chaotic and unpredictable berserkers were no longer seen as assets. They were seen as a threat to order itself. The story ends with the taming of the North. As Christianity spread through Scandinavia, the berserkers, these living avatars of a pagan war god, were outlawed. They were condemned as heathens and devil worshippers. Their tradition faded into legend, becoming the terrifying boogeymen of Norse folklore. The story of the Berserker is a profound look at the nature of warfare itself. It is a story about the necessity of unleashing the beast within to survive the horrors of battle, and the terrible price that must be paid for doing so. They were a weapon that was as dangerous to the wielder as it was to the enemy, a force of chaos that could not be contained within a civilized world. Their legend is a timeless, chilling reminder that the line between a warrior and a monster is dangerously, terrifyingly thin. What do you believe was the true source of their rage? Divine madness, a hallucinogenic trip, or a purely psychological battle trance? Let us know.